Thanks, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Savan Devani. I'm the founder and CEO of Biotrillion. We're a little startup looking to advance healthcare through a niche within healthcare called Digital Biomarkers. We're developing a neurologic digital biomarker platform called BioEngine 4D, used to digitally detect developing disease by innovating at the intersection of computer vision and physiology. We're fundamentally reimagining life sciences through the principles of many sciences. And as a result, we've recruited and built a team with backgrounds across life data and computer sciences. My background includes receiving a bachelor's and master's in bioengineering, followed by over a decade in healthcare and M&A, experience across drug device and diagnostic technologies before I founded the company. The real catalyst for me founding Biotrillion was my own personal calamity with my mother's stage 4 cancer diagnosis, which made me wake up and realize that there can be a much better way to detect diseases earlier. So we spend less than 1% of our time in a medical setting, yet we're so dependent on it for most basic of our healthcare needs. Consumers' advantage is access to the 99% observational window outside of the medical setting from what we call the life setting. It's during this much larger window of time called the detection phase where we need solutions to measure whether a potential disease is developing before becoming symptomatic. As we've seen, COVID-19 is accelerating the urgency of detecting disease signs before becoming symptomatic, and this has never been more important for both COVID-19 and all time-sensitive diseases. The best way for healthcare to be accelerated by the digital revolution is for physiologic measures to move from qualitative to quantitative, to then computable and scalable. And we believe digital biomarkers, a niche within healthcare, holds the solution. So what if over 1 billion consumers could be enabled with immediate access to detect health conditions, using only the very optical hardware in their smartphone? We've applied the smartphone's camera and other more recently enabling optical hardware to extract extremely subtle and milliscale features in the eyes and face using convolutional neural networks to turn this data into digital biomarkers for both cognitive function and neurologic dysfunction. And today we can now detect drug use and cognitive changes in the brain just using someone's iPhone with our app, of course. Interesting things about AI is that most of it is focused on the macro world or the microscopic world, but there's this world right in the middle called the milli world, where features lie that we can't see with our own vision, but those spatial and temporal features can be more accurately quantified through AI and computer vision. And we believe that that's a massive gap in the market. And those feature sets lie right in the eyes and face. Today, neurologic symptoms can be detected through a pen light test, but this is qualitative. You see this on the left side. It's measuring the pupillary reflex, but it's being assessed by the doctor's own human visual cortex. This is overly qualitative, it's inaccessible, it's expensive, it's clinician dependent, and the scalability is limited for one doctor per every 1,000 patients. We see a future where it's a one-to-one relationship with your device and yourself. It's far more scalable, real-time, affordable, anyone, anytime, anywhere. And we view pupillary responses to be a next-gen vital sign for the neurologic function in the same way you can think of heart rate as the vital sign for cardiovascular function. So I'm going to play a quick demo. It's about 20 seconds, and it shows basically our subject here is going to be given a cognitive load, a math problem, and we're going to quantitatively measure the synaptic activity in his brain increase as he processes this. So he was mentally processing that problem, and you'll see there a spike in his cognitive activity able to be measured right through his eyes and face. And then you'll see a drop the minute he answered the question. I'd love to go over this in more detail with you, but in the interest of time, I'll have to go a little faster. But by being able to measure the synaptic activity, this can be used for measuring changes in cognition quantitatively. So for example, Alzheimer's or dementias, by giving someone the exact same difficulty stimuli and measuring whether that becomes cognitively more hard to perform that problem, you can see whether cognitive decline is occurring on a quantitative basis.
Thank you, Savan, but actually time is up.
Okay, and I'll wrap up. Thank you. Our investors come from backgrounds across the health and tech communities, such as NVIDIA, One Medical, and others. And our sustainable development goals are aligned with Goal 3 and Goal 10, namely around neurologic health anomalies, the scalability of anyone, anytime, anywhere. 3 billion people own a smartphone. And be happy to answer questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Savan. Any questions? Yeah, we have Aaron, please.
Yeah, hi.
Fascinating.
Yeah, great. Fascinating presentation, great use of AI. But question is clinical validation as well as how you're training your models, just to keep it very brief.
Okay, so the training data set is a little unconventional. We normally think of as having a data and a label, with the label being really the endpoint. And there's a paradox here because we don't have labels with pupil or eye data. And so what we do is label it to the actual pupil changes and train our convolutional neural networks to be able to detect those changes at a very subtle level. And we use pathophysiologic causality to then piggyback from those changes to cognitive function and neurologic dysfunction based on what we know through causality of the brain.
About clinical validation?
Right. So for clinical validation, so we've started to test this on a low sample set of friends and family. We're able to detect drugs, alcohol, opioids, don't ask how we got, and a few other things, and also changes in cognition. And then our next goal is to run a pilot observational study at about 50 to 75 population size. Is the next step.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So could you tell us a bit more about kind of accuracy rates or kind of how we know this actually works? And then what would the legal requirements be? Because I'm assuming that if all of a sudden you're kind of giving these sort of health diagnoses, there might be legal implications, and any IP.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go to the slide that really serves as a compass for a lot of things, and it's this slide. So we look at healthcare through phases. Most of it's occurring in the interventional phase, which is typically diagnostics and treatment. Our goal is to be right in the middle in the detection, not to be a diagnostic, but to be a pre-diagnostic, almost closer to wellness, and to catalyze an earlier move into the clinical setting for clinically confirmatory diagnosis. So there's a lower regulatory bar, but there's still validation that's required. In terms of IP, we filed our 9th patent just last week. And was there anything else that your question?
Yeah, accuracy.
Accuracy, okay. So it depends on which endpoint we're looking at. So for drugs, alcohol, we're able to do about 85% of the time. Opioids is around 70%. And then the cognitive change, which basically we mark against the the strength of cognitive load. So basically the complexity of, for example, a math problem. That's in the 70s right now. So, but we have not gone asymptotic yet because we have a lot more data to still train, and it just takes a little bit more time to get to those higher numbers, and they'll start to get asymptotic. And we've used a training data set of over 10,000 images and videos.
Thank you.